So we were here, we were understanding warp execution, and we said that a warp executes in single instruction multiple data format. And then there were questions about what happens when you have, let's say, conditionals where some threads want to execute if, some threads want to execute else, and so on. So let's try to understand that a little better today. So we have this kernel in which there is an if-else statement that is based on the thread ID itself, and therefore odd numbered threads 1, 3, 5, etc. they are going to execute the if part, whereas the even numbered vertices, even numbered threads are going to execute the else part. As far as this last statement and the first statement is concerned, that is going to get executed by each thread, each of the warp threads, right? So for now we'll concentrate only on the warp. Across warps, these statements can get executed in any order, right? So let me number these as S1, S2, S3, S4, and I have also color coded them so that it becomes easier for us to visualize. So I'm going to show you how the lockstep execution is going to happen, for which I need to define something called as a no-op or no operation, which is essentially meaning that that particular thread is not executing anything during that time. In our analogy of Ravana, this is like closing the eyes. So I'm assuming that for now the warp size is 8, 0 to 7 threads, and they are going to start executing in starting from the first instruction, and the time goes from top to bottom. So first they are all going to execute, let's say, S0, and that is going to happen at the same time for all the warp threads. After that, which threads are going to execute the conditional ID mod 2?
All odd threads.
Odd number threads.
All odd.
Okay, so that was a little googly question. ID mod 2 is going to get executed by everybody, right? Because only then they will know which thread wants to go inside the if part or not. Sorry about that, but yeah, so that was just a small catch. The conditional ID mod 2 is going to get executed by all the threads. The if block, depending upon the outcome of ID mod 2, is going to get executed only by the odd numbered threads, right? So that is what is going to happen here, that S1 is going to get executed. S1 essentially means the vector of ID equal to ID. ID mod 2 will be executed by everybody. And during this time, the even numbered threads are going to execute the no-ops, right? So the warp is not capable of executing S1 and S2 at the same time, right? So that should be the important part here. Once S1 is over, and S1 need not be single instruction, S1 could be multiple instructions. After S1s are over, then S2s are taken for execution for the even numbered threads. And at that time, the odd numbered threads are going to execute no, right? Does this mean that always, okay, does this mean that always S1 executes completely and then only S2 executes? Not necessarily. Although, I mean, this is definitely going to be decided by the hardware. It's possible that S1, I mean, the set of instructions inside if block might be large in number. Some instructions from if block might get executed, then some instructions from S2 might get executed, then the remaining instructions from S1 and so on. So that is all possible. You should not rely that S1 is going to get executed completely and then only S2, or vice versa. As far as vector of ID++ is concerned, that is going to be again executed by all the threads. So we say that threads diverge at S1 and then they converge back at S3. So that is what is the overall execution. I hope this is clear. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so let's define that in words. So when different warp threads, that is the different threads from the same warp, execute different instructions, we say that they diverge. Whenever there is whenever there are threads executing the same instruction, the hardware makes sure that from the same word, the threads are executing the same instruction at the same time, and the others are executing no op. At the and the important point here is that if there is a lot of, let's say, divergence, right, which we are calling as thread divergence, that is going to cause sequentiality to the execution. So we are not saying that S1 and S2 can execute simultaneously, right? So therefore, S1 is going to get followed by S2, or S2 is going to get followed by S1. This is sequential execution. This is going to require 2 steps in the processing, right? So we are adding no ops, we are adding bubbles, we are adding stalls to the execution, and therefore there is sequentiality. The parallelism is going to get reduced, and therefore thread divergence is going to reduce the performance of your application. So let's do some simple classwork. We have this kernel, and I have a for loop here, right? What you have to answer is whether this code diverges or not. So please think individually for a few seconds, and then observe the code and then answer. Okay, I'm enabling chat. Does this code diverge? Okay, Venkat is saying yes. Nishant, yes. Harshit, yes. Okay. So, yes. Okay. So many of you are saying yes. Can somebody explain why? Is the vector array initialized to 0? Yeah, Venkat, go ahead.
Sir, because in a single warp, when multiple threads are running, they'll all have different IDs. So the for loop will run for different number of iterations for each warp, like for each thread. So there'll be sequentiality involved.
Okay. So yes, so that answer is correct. We have this II less than ID, and that is going to govern the number of iterations that each thread is going to make. And therefore, we say that thread 0 is going to execute, let's say, 0 number of iterations, thread 1, maybe 1 number of iterations, and so on. And therefore, there will be times when thread 1 is executing its iteration, but thread 0 is doing nothing. So it has, in some sense, no op. Technically, you can still argue that there is no real divergence in this case, because thread 0 does not have anything else to do, right? So, but from our definition of divergence, we'll still say that there is thread divergence here, because different threads are executing different number of. So there will be a more like a triangular execution that you can see 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you talk about the length that each thread is executing for this much amount of time or this many number of iterations, there is going to be a skewed execution where the largest ID is going to execute the largest number of iterations, and that is going to be the bottleneck. All other n-1 threads are not going to create any problem. The largest execution, that's the last thread, that is going to create the bottleneck here. So we might have to reorder the code in such a manner that there is some better distribution of this work happening across different threads. The question here is the vector array initialized to 0? Could be. I am not sure. Maybe it is initialized, maybe it is not initialized. But for identifying that if it is code divergence or not, we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Any other concerns, questions? Otherwise, I'll ask you another question. Okay. So I'm going to show you another. So in this case, I take Kushal's suggestion, and the vector is initialized to actually 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so look at this code. I'm going to again disable chat for a few seconds. Everybody please think and answer if this code this is a modification of the code which we had from the previous slide. So does this code diverge further? Because now there is a nested if else. Okay, I have enabled the chat. Yes, no. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, now it is up to the rest of the class to join one party or the other. Okay, no, no, no. Okay. More votes for no. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so there are more number of no's and fewer yeses. So let me check. Yes. Okay, Kushal has said it. So Kushal, can you explain why there will be more divergence?
It is actually no, because I didn't see in the else if condition the condition was vector ID is divisible modulo 2. I thought it was ID modulo 2. Sorry.
Sure. Okay, that's good. So the important part here is that whenever you have these nested if else, the divergence is in general going to increase. Instead of two-way branching, it might become four-way branching or three-way branching, whatever. And that is going to split the execution of warp threads further. So some threads will execute the if part, some threads will execute the else if part, and the remaining threads might execute the else part, and so on. So all of this is going to increase the thread divergence in general. In this particular example, it doesn't happen. And the reason is that this vector ID mod 2. So, okay, let's first look at this. So odd numbered threads are going to execute the if block, right? Then all the even numbered threads are going to start executing this else part. Within that, I am going to check. So remember that all the even numbered threads are coming here. Vector of ID mod 2, I am going to check if the vector of ID mod 2 is true. And the way the vector is initialized, even numbered elements are even and the odd numbered elements are odd. And therefore vector ID mod 2 is going to be checked by even threads. And therefore this condition is always going to be false. And therefore nobody is going to execute the else if part at all. Everybody from the even threads is going to execute only the final else part. And therefore there is absolutely no divergence here. This code is actually equivalent to if ID mod 2 vector ID equal to ID, else vector ID equal to ID into 2. Does that seem reasonable? Any concerns, questions on this one? All right. So Venkat,
the even threads are not executing the first if condition, right?
That is correct. The condition is evaluated. Sorry, the condition is evaluated, but the vector ID equal to ID / 2, that is not executed.
No, I mean that vector ID is equal to ID is not executed by the even threads, right?
Correct. That is
then wouldn't that be considered as code diverge?
Yes, there is thread divergence. As far as this code is concerned, there is thread divergence. This is given from our previous example on the previous slide. The question was whether it increases further, right? So there is thread divergence here. Just that because of this addition of this nested if else, there is no additional divergence. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Any other concerns here? Okay, so we'll move ahead. So from the perspective of our quantifying this amount of thread divergence, we can define something called as a degree of divergence. So what is the degree of divergence? It just says that how much divergence exists in this particular piece of code. Right? So DOD is defined for a warp. Right? It's the number of steps required to complete one instruction. If there is no thread divergence, then we say that the degree of divergence is 1. So it ranges from 1 to 32. If there is no thread divergence, then the warp threads require one step to execute one instruction, and therefore we say that the DOD is 1. If it is fully divergent code, that means each thread, there is probably very, very deep nested if-else, and each thread requires to execute different instructions. In that case, we'll say that the DOD is 32, right? Because it requires 32 steps to fully execute that particular construct, right? And this if-else is going to be a fully divergent code, and it is going to be restricted not for one instruction, but it will be for the construct, right? So that is what we'll define just after this classwork. I would like you to write a code to achieve DOD equal to 4 if you have understood this. If there are any questions, you can ask. Okay, any suggestions on how you will write such a code? ID mod 4. That seems to be a good way of implementing this. So you check for different values of ID mod 4. You are going to get 0, 1, 2, 3. And that is definitely going to give you a different kind of, 4 different kinds of execution. So the DOD is going to be 4. Yeah. A switch statement, for example, using 4 conditions is going to give you, that is correct. Okay, so all of these are valid answers that Venkat, Shade, Rigved, Akash, and Harshal have given. So all of these are going to give you DOD with appropriate value of DOD. Right? So if I say that I want it to be 5, then you should be able to write it accordingly. Okay, good. So DOD can, so in this case, it was not an instruction, right? So the switch or the if-else is going to be a complete construct. So we can, if you just look at S1, S2, S3 in this case, let's say, take Rigved's code that is there on the chat box. S1, S2, S3 might be actually arbitrary instructions, but let's assume that these are single instructions. For which, if you just look at that, the DOD is going to be 1, which means that there is no thread divergence as far as S1 alone is concerned. When you combine it with this if-else construct, then the DOD starts up increasing. And therefore, we can define the DOD for a construct. It's going to be the sum of DODs for its instructions. And in a similar manner, you might be able to... Sorry, there was any question? Okay. So the DOD can also be, now we can talk about the maximum or the average DOD for a sequence of instructions, right? This might be helpful for you. So let's say that you have some original code and you want to modify that code. If you just look at quantify how much is the DOD, let's say max or average, and in both the things, both the codes, both the versions of the code, then you will be able to figure out which one is performing better in terms of degree of divergence.
Sir?
Yeah, Venkat, go ahead.
Sir, isn't degree of divergence for a particular group, for a particular warp? Why are we saying that we'll take the maximum for like all instructions? It's not defined for a single instruction, right? It's like it can span over multiple instructions. We just need every warp to finish one instruction, right? I mean, I didn't understand how we are defining the max or average.
No, so the max, okay, so let's think about it this way, that there are going to be large number of arbitrary instructions in this, let's say, a kernel. And therefore, one particular statement, let's say there is an assignment statement, which is going to just take DOD equal to 1. There might be other if-else statement which might have DOD equal to, let's say, 4. Then there might be other for loop which might have DOD equal to something else. Now, what can we talk about the DOD of this complete program? One option is that we can just sum them up, right? But then the number of so sum them up and we can define that the DOD of the complete function or complete sequence of instructions is going to be whatever is the sum of these DODs. When you transform this code, let's say optimize this code or perform some other transformation, in that case, this particular sequence, assignment, if else, for loop, might not stay. There might just be an assignment statement followed by for loop. And therefore, if you want to compare or quantify or compare quantitatively the divergence between these two, then we will need something called as either the total DOD, which is essentially the sum, or you can as well talk about the average DOD per instruction. Now the per instruction could be per construct, depending upon how you want to define it, or it could be, for example, the maximum DOD that you achieve for any construct in this. So I mean, it could be, I mean, the use case can be thought about, but the maximum DOD of any of these constructs is going to give you the finally the max for a sequence of constructs. Does that seem reasonable?
Okay, sir.
Any other
Sir,
concerns here? Yeah.
Sir, so degree of divergence means actually essentially how many paths a particular instruction can take for threads, right?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. Any other concerns? Okay, so we'll move ahead. So like some of you were suggesting that we can have a switch case. So I'm going to have a switch case here, which is going to give me, let's say, different instructions being executed by different threads. So one thing which we kind of did not really get into, or we did not really bother about, is that what is meant by an instruction. Is it going to be like this? For example, if I take this particular statement, is this one instruction? Well, if you look at it at the statement level, at the source code level, yes, it turns out to be a single statement. But when it comes to converting it into an assembly, this will have multiple set of instructions. One for, let's say, ID -2, there will be some temporary assignment, then vector of that is going to get stored into some other register or temporary, and that is going to get assigned to vector of ID. So there will be multiple such instructions, and that is probably going to happen for multiple such statements. For now, we'll restrict our discussion to statement level, that is the source code level, just from the perspective of DOD. But you can as well apply the same concept at the more fine-grained level of instructions. So in this case, assuming that there are no further optimizations done, which can change the number. For example, 7 plus 7, this can be compile time deduced to be 14, and therefore you might be able to say that maybe it is going to reduce the amount of thread divergence because I don't have to perform plus at the execution time. Or is there anything that is, yeah, for example, this is, I can say this is vector of ID, and this is also vector of ID, right? So this optimization can reduce the amount of divergence, but let's assume that there is no such optimization done, in which case we can say that this is a 10-way branch, and therefore the DOD is going to be 10. Okay, so that I think I have answered already. Okay, let's move ahead. So since the thread divergence adds sequentiality to the processing, we should say that the conditions are not good in the kernel code, right? So that should be our conclusion. Yes.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Just
no.
one doubt. In the last case, when we said 10-way divergence, if we take an example, let's suppose if ID mod 2, and inside the if condition, I have S1 and S2, and in the else part, I have some instruction S3. Then in the case when ID mod 2 is 1, when the threads are going into the first if statement, that then it has to perform two statements to like, and only then the other the ID mod 0 threads can start executing S3, right? So
Correct.
for each thread to move one instruction ahead, the total number of instructions is coming 3. So degree of divergence will be 3, right, in this case.
3 meaning you are counting the conditional part also
Sir, no, like S1 and S2 will be
for the
there.
if part. Yes.
Yeah, and then S3 will be done. So basically,
Correct.
for all the threads to complete at least one instruction, we'll need 3 instructions, right?
Uh, okay, so let's put it this way. So as far as S1 and S2 are concerned, let's assume that those are simple statements and there is no degree of there is no divergence in that. In which case we are going to require 2 steps to execute if block.
Yes,
And
sir.
let's say there is S3 and S4 which also requires 2 steps. In which case we'll say that the degree of divergence is going to be for S1 it is going to be 2, as well as, sorry, for the if construct it is going to be 4, right? Because we are going to require 4 steps to finish the execution of if.
Okay, for finishing the execution of the entire construct we're talking.
For the construct, yes.
Okay, sir. Sir, so in this case also, we can't simply just say 10-way, right? We need to know exactly how many instructions are within each switch case statement. And
Yes,
we'll
yes,
have
yes.
to take maximum of that.
Yes, that is correct. So we might have to count the number of instructions within each case, and that can add up the and that is where the average probably is going to be more appropriate rather than talking about the sum, right? So if it is 10-way branch, but each one performs on an average, let's say thread divergence of, let's say 1.5 or something, and that might turn out to be a better metric than talking about the sum. But when you compare 2 codes, which are the transformations or optimized versions, then it might make sense to even sum them up and see if those are giving better results.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other concerns? Okay. All right, so we'll discuss about, so yeah, my question was, then we should try to avoid conditions in the kernel codes, right? So that should be our goal. Anybody wants to say anything in support of this statement or in opposition to this statement? The statement I'm making is we should avoid conditions in the kernel code.
Sir? Sir?
Just a minute. Huh? Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, anybody wants to say anything in support?
Sir?
Or yeah?
Sir, but like this statement just says that avoiding if conditions will help, but avoiding if conditions won't solve the problem, right? Within a single what, there should be no multiple executions. It can be some cases where, like, maybe within a single what, all the IDs are performing the same execution, and in the next what, all the IDs are performing some other execution. Like, let's suppose if I have ID mod 32 kind of situation or something like that, where a block of 32 threads is performing a single set of instructions and another block of 32 is performing something else. So in this, there is no divergence as such, but they are all performing lockstep, right?
Okay, so that's a very important point that Venkat is making, and let's look at it step by step. So what I'm going to do is that definitely having if conditions is not going to be a problem. I can have statements like this where vector size or ID is less than n, then execute S1, right? So I can have such statements here. and that does not really create any problem. It's actually used for correctness measure, because I can have id less than n, so I don't want more number of threads to execute beyond a particular beyond the problem size, right? So therefore this is not really going to create any problem. I mean, there is no as such divergence which you can avoid in this case, which you can create because of this if condition. Then we should say that maybe the yeah, so there is condition but there is no divergence. Then the conditions which evaluate to different truth values are in, because in this case, since all of them are going to execute this instruction and they are going to give the same truth value, I don't have to worry about this. So I should worry about conditions which evaluate to different truth values. But then if I talk about a code like this, where id slash 32, then I execute s1 else s2, definitely there is going to be a different outcome of truth values. The reason being that 0 to 31 will have 0 value, whereas all others are going to execute let's say s1. So there is going to be different outcome because of this condition, but there doesn't seem to be any problem because of this with respect to thread divergence, because 0 to 31 are still from the same warp and they all are anyway going to execute s2. This is similar to the example that we had where vector of id mod 2 we were checking, where it was not really causing any problem. So what this indicates is that different truth values alone does not cause a problem. When you have these 0 to 31 threads or 32 to 63 threads, these within themselves are evaluating to two different truth values, then there is a problem, right? So in general, the conditions per se are not bad. They evaluating different truth values is also not evil. When the conditions evaluate to different truth values within the warp, then only there is a thread divergence, then only there is a performance issue, then only there is a problem. Otherwise, we don't have to worry about thread divergence. And therefore, don't generalize it to say that, oh, this particular code has lots of conditions and therefore this is a performance bottleneck. No, that need not be the case. Right? So we should be very clear about when the thread divergence is occurring. You have to restrict yourself, your view to a warp. Within that, if there is different truth value execution, then there is a problem. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about thread divergence. I hope this is clear. In case there are any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, so we have this is an important takeaway. So let's rewrite this particular program to remove thread divergence. I'm going to probably switch off the chat for a moment. So you are allowed to transform the program arbitrarily the way you want. Right? Only the conditions are given, some assertions are given, which means that those conditions are always going to be true. Based on that, you can take a call how you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to switch on the chat now. So x equal to y followed by x equal to z. Yeah, x equal to y, x equal to z will probably not help us because if x is indeed equal to y, then we'll get if x is equal to y, then we get x equal to z. But if x is equal to z, then we want the value of x to be y, which we will not get. That was a good try. Okay, Harshit and Ritvik have given some suggestion. So what is the purpose of this exercise? The exercise says that there might be certain conditions in your code because of which you might be able to avoid the if-else conditions altogether. And then from that angle, you will be able to even get rid of any thread divergence. First, we have to see if there is thread divergence. In this case, there is a good chance that there might be a thread divergence because of this, because it might give different answers to different warp threads. I mean, different if-else blocks might get executed by different warp threads. But if you transform the code in this manner, which is difficult for a compiler to do automatically, it needs those assertions, it needs those semantic properties of the programs to be known, and then you can transform it such that you get a different expression altogether. So if you, for example, see x equal to y plus z minus x, if x equals y, if this is the condition which is true, then this statement is similar to x equal to z, right? And therefore x equals y will give you x equals z, which is the if part. And if x would have been equal to z, then this is equivalent to x equal to y. And therefore both of in both the if and else part can actually be gotten rid of just by using this particular statement. Again, it is not as easy as this. I mean, this is a little contrived example. You might not face such nice situation that you will be able to optimize it away. But one important thing that we should be aware of is also that whenever we are transforming the code, is there something additional that I'm, let's say, trading off? For example, let's look at what we have here, that is the if-else statement, and then what we are suggesting, that x equal to y plus z minus x. Is there a possibility that something else might happen? Is there some problem that might occur when we transform this code this way? Any suggestions?
It might be the case that compiler is already optimized for
It might be the case that compiler is
optimized for this case, and if we keep the arithmetic there, the compiler optimization is much better than the arithmetic.
That's a good point. Yes, sure, that is possible. That we might be optimizing for, I mean, the compiler might be optimizing for what is already there in the code. And when we transform it manually, then compiler is not able to perform that optimization. That is possible. That's a good point. Shet is suggesting that is it possible that overflow might happen? That is also another possibility, because y plus z is going to happen first, and then minus x is going to get removed. So y plus z itself might overflow, right? Which is not going to happen in the original code, because there is only a comparison statement x equals y, and then there is assignment statement x equal to z. In neither of these there is going to be an overflow. So that is also another possibility. The third thing that is going to happen, sorry about this noise, but somebody is hopefully leaving. Okay, another point that can happen is that you are also increasing the number of instructions. Not increasing, but there is some calculation which we are doing differently here, because I am making an addition y plus z, and then there is subtraction also minus x. I am getting rid of this comparison x equals y. I am getting rid of, I am not getting rid of the assignment, because the assignment is there in both the cases. So that comparison is getting transformed into plus and minus. Now, whether this is fruitful or not, performance wise, that also we should be careful about. Is assignment much faster than add and subtract? That's a little difficult question to answer, and I'll tell you why. When we are dealing with this x, y, z, if these are in the registers, based on registers, the assignment statement as well as plus is going to require hardly any difference in terms of the number of cycles. But when it is in the memory or even in the cache, then this is going to get transformed into load and store. That is going to be a problem for us. So depending upon where these are, it will affect. Any other concerns here?
Sir, I had a doubt.
Yeah. Because
Sir, based on the snippet given, can we say that the assert function is basically telling us either the first condition is true or the second condition is true?
yes, that is that is the meaning of assertion. Maybe I
Yeah.
didn't make it clear. Yes, the assertion says that this condition is true always whenever the program reaches this particular program point. That means that either x equal to y or x equal to z or both.
Okay,
Yes.
so if we go by that logic, I feel that what I wrote as the answer is still correct, because if x equal to y, then we are also making x equal to z. So all three variables are becoming same. And if x is not equal to y, it means that the second condition of assertion was true, which is x equal to z. And then also we are making x equal to y. So again, all three variables are same, which is what I wrote.
X equal, yeah, okay, let me just quickly check. Okay, let's check if Vikas's code is going to work. So we have x equals y, then I think this will work because x equal to z happens later, so that is okay. When x equals z already, then we want to make x point to, I mean, make x have the same value as y. So yx should have same value, z might have a different value. But that is not going to get ensured by the second statement. So x equal to y will ensure that. But x equal to z will again map it back to the original value. Because does that sound reasonable? So let's take the values of x, y, z as since x equals z. Let's say x and z are 1 and y equal to 2. Right? So x equal to y will make x equal to 2, and then x equal to z will make again x equal to 1. But we want x to be y, that is equal to 2 at the end of this execution when x equals z happens. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other concerns, questions? I mean, feel free to ask. There is no problem. And it's okay to commit mistakes. We all are human.
Sir, this is regarding thread divergence. You said if there is a thread divergence, then the performance will be decreasing. Is there any explanation for that?
Okay, so let's go back to our diagram of this nice colorful diagram. Sorry, it's much farther. Okay, fine. Here. So when in general, when there is no thread divergence, that is S1 and S2 are let's say going to get executed. I mean, the transformation is such that S1 and S2 can happen in parallel. Then I just need one step of this execution, right? So that S1 and S2 are grouped together. So S0 happens, then S1, S2 happens together at the same time, and then S3 happens. But when you have, that is not the case because the even numbered threads cannot execute S2 at the same time while odd numbered threads are executing S1. Therefore, those, because of the SIMD execution, and therefore those threads are executing the no-op, and therefore there is sequentiality which is getting added. So the multiprocessor is capable of running 32 threads simultaneously, but because of the code, it is not able to run 32 threads simultaneously. It is able to run, let's say in this case, 16 at the same time, and then 16 as the next sequential step, and therefore there is sequentiality. Does that seem reasonable?
Okay, sir. So if in case if you are not using the same warp but a different warp, then we can consider we need not consider about thread divergence, right?
That is correct. If within a warp there is no different truth values occurring, there is no thread divergence within a warp, but there might be different statements getting executed across warps, then we don't have to worry about thread divergence. That is correct. So in this case, our statements are here, right? So in this case, for example, ID/32, this is going to give different truth values across, I'm talking about this part, different truth values across first warp and the rest of the warps, but still there is no thread divergence.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other concerns? All right. So we will move ahead.
Excuse me,
and yeah, go ahead.
Sir, we have no control over which thread goes to which warp. So, sir, it might.
Yeah, so that is fixed, that 0 to 31 are going to go into warp 0, 32 to 63 in warp 1, and so on. So that control we don't have, but we have control over the data, which means that if there is this array which I am providing to different threads, I can decide that maybe certain data items should go to 0 to 31, and then some other different kinds of data items go to 32 to 63 threads. That I have control over, and using that we can reduce thread divergence.
Okay, sir.
We will possibly study a little bit about that, but okay, let me just, since you mentioned this point, it's an important point from the perspective of thread divergence, so let me mention that. Let's say that there are different number of data items which are put into different buckets, right? And each bucket is being processed by one thread, right? So let's say there are 1,000 buckets. Each one has different number of processing to be done for each thread, and each bucket is being given to different threads. Now some bucket might have thousands of items, and some bucket might have 1 or 2 items, or it could be empty. If these two buckets go to the same warp, then there is a large thread divergence that can occur. So one of the ways in which you can do is to reorder the buckets such that nearby buckets have almost the same number of items, right? So if there is 0 items or 2 items, 1 items, those could be together, and those can be given to warp threads of the same warp. And then if there are 1,000 items, and then maybe 1,050 or even 2,000 items, those can be given to some other warp. And so we are making sure that the thread divergence within the warp is reduced, right? So that is the usual technique which we should be using. One way of doing it is to sort the buckets based on the number of items they have, and then assign those to thread 0, thread 1, thread 2. In which case the bucket size is slowly increasing, and therefore the warp threads are going to get almost the same number of items, if not exactly the same. Right? So this is the usual technique that gets used. There is further optimization to this, but for now this suffers.
Sir?
Yeah, Venkat.
Sir, I didn't understand how the data items are affecting the divergence. Isn't it the instructions? Like, can you give a little example?
Yeah. So let's go back to our for loop here, which we said, which you guys suggested that yes, that for loop has divergence. Right? So this was our for loop here. Right? So different threads might be executing different number of instructions. In this case, it is based on thread ID, but let's assume that that is based on the number of elements inside the bucket that is assigned to this particular thread. Now, since each bucket has different number of items, the number of iterations of this is going to be different, and therefore it might be helpful for you to, therefore the thread divergence might turn out to be large, as I was saying. In such cases, if you want to reduce the thread divergence, then you can assign similar number of items, the buckets having similar number of items, to warp threads, and that is going to make the number of iterations of the threads within the warp more uniform, and therefore you will have less thread divergence. So one warp might finish sooner, and then the other warp is probably going to take more number of time, but that is okay. Once this warp is over, its context is not required, and therefore you will be able to utilize those resources for the other warps.
sir.
Yeah, Venkat.
Sir, so what do we mean by buckets? Like when
No, in this case, I was just using bucket as some sort of a container which has different data items. Okay, imagine it to be like a network or a graph, right, where one thread is assigned to each vertex, and then each thread is operating on its neighbors of that vertex. In social networks, it's possible that one particular node might have large out degree, large number of neighbors, and then there will be some nodes which will have small number of neighbors. If you are processing all of these by the same thread, all the neighbors by the same thread sequentially, then the thread divergence will kick in. So it makes sense to reorder the nodes based on their degrees, assign those to warp threads in that order, so that the warp threads will have fewer number of neighbors together or large number of neighbors but together. Does that seem reasonable?
yes, sir. Yes. Sir. Okay. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Any other concerns, questions here? So we have exceeded the time, so I'm going to leave this classwork as well as some homework which I have for you. Just spend time on it. If there are any questions, you can post on Moodle, we can discuss. And that completes our discussion on of computation. So next week we are going to start with memory related processing. All right, so we'll stop here. See you on Monday.